Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and some time back I did ask for signatures to go on the back of my Canadian quilt, and the response was wonderful. I got a pile of signatures, and on top of it all, I got a pile of beautiful letters that were very, very touching. I was totally surprised on getting the letters, but I sure enjoyed every single one of them. Now that I have all the signatures, I need to sew them all together to put them on the back of the quilt. And I'm going to sew these labels together like little log cabins that are going to grow and grow and grow. I'm going to do the back of the quilt in sections of 4. So I'm going to sew the signatures together in sections of 4 and then sew them all together. So let's get some of these signatures sewn together. I have all of the labels, and I'm also going to add some red and white, some empty spaces and some borders with the red. This is going to be fabric that I'm going to be able to use to fill in spaces that I'm not going to be able to get with all of the signatures. And to make those log cabins, I'm going to start with some panels. These are the great panels that you can get to celebrate Canada's 150th. I also made my own label for the back. And to sew all these labels together, I'm going to need a ruler, a pencil, and some kind of a light source. I'm going to match the signatures up facing each other, and I want to be able to see through the fabric. So you can have any light source you want. You can even use a window. I'm going to use a light box. Now this light box is from Daylight, and it's very, very thin. And I can write right on top of it. The on-off switch is very smooth into the frame, and all I'm going to need to do is put my finger on that, and the longer I keep my finger on it, the brighter the box is going to go. So this is the light source that I'm going to be using. The first thing I'm going to do is start with my labels. And I'm going to treat these labels as the center of a log cabin. So I want to put the signatures going all the way around. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a signature that is going to fit on one of the ends. Because of the light source, I'm going to be able to see that signature and the block underneath. So I'm going to be able to line up that signature without trimming that signature down along that area that I want. I then can take a ruler and draw where I want to sew the seam. And I'm still not worried about trimming anything off. I just want to have a nice straight sewing line. When it's stitched, I knew that it's going to be exactly in the position that I wanted. Now I can take and trim that seam down, but I don't want to trim it to a 1/4 inch. I want to trim it a little bit bigger, maybe a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to press it open and flat. That's going to help keep this entire quilt back nice and flat. Now I'm going to be able to take it to the cutting mat and trim off the 2 long edges. Even though I'm going to build this by a log cabin, I'm not necessarily going to go around like you normally do. I'm going to just find what sides are going to work best, and I'm going to work with that. So I can put a signature on the bottom, or I can put some signatures on the side. I want to keep all of the signatures going the same way, so there's none upside down or you don't have to read sideways. In order to do that, I'm going to need to sew my signatures together to make a long strip. I want my first row of signatures to go along the one side. So I'm going to take my signatures and sew them together. And I know I want them all with the words going in the same way. So I'm going to take them and I'm going to match up the signatures through that light box so that I've centered them up. And I know I have lots on both sides so that when I need to trim it down, I can. From there, I'm going to draw a straight line. I'm going to be able to take it to the machine and stitch right along that line. Even though those seam allowances are not the same, I'm not worried about them right now. I just want to make sure my signatures are all going in the same direction. Then I'm going to be able to trim down that seam allowance. And again, I'm not going to do it at that 1/4 inch. I'm going to do it larger, at about a 1/2 inch. You really don't need to measure that seam allowance, just make it a little bit bigger. When the 2 are done, I'm going to be able to add another one in the same way. Match up the signatures, draw the line, and flip it down. So what eventually is going to happen is you're going to have this long piece with all of the signatures on it. And they're not necessarily all the size, but I have all of the names sort of centered the best that I can. Once they're all pressed and all the seam allowances have been pressed open and flat, I can trim them down to make one long piece. Now I can do the names going up and down, but I'm also going to want to do the names going in the other direction because I want to go all the way around that block. So I'm just going to keep sewing names until I have enough that is going to cover that side. And I've left a little bit left over here so that I can trim it off if I need to. And because I've trimmed this piece straight and this piece straight, I know that those edges are straight, and that's where I can use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to match up the edges and sew that 1/4 inch. When that seam's done, I'm going to press it. I'm going to press those seams open and flat. Once it's pressed, I need to decide on the next side I'm going to do. I could do the top, the bottom, or one side. It won't matter what size. I'm just going to be working around, but it doesn't matter the direction that I'm going to go in. So I found 2 signatures that are going to fit along the bottom. I've stitched my line. I'm going to trim and do this seam open and flat. Now I'm going to take it to the cutting mat. I'm going to straighten this seam, and then stitch them together. When that side's done, I'm not trimming. I'm only going to trim the side that I'm working on. So I've sewn some signatures together to go on this side. So I'm going to straighten this edge and straighten that edge. And I'm not going to worry about matching any of those seams. The chances are you're not going to match them all, so don't worry about it. And for the next one I want to put on, it's too small to put on, but there's not enough room to add another signature. So I'm going to add fillers. And that's where the extra fabric is going to come in handy. So I've added some red onto the end of the signatures. Now I could have added on one side, or I could have even added in between the signatures. Now I'm going to straighten up the 2 edges, match them, and sew them. Once the red's added, I'm going to be able to trim it down. And I could do that wherever I'm going to need a spot. So I'm going to continue working all the way around with the signatures. But I'm going to work on all of the panels at the same time. And that way, they're going to be equal as I go along. I had some signatures sent to me that were done by a group of people, so they're all on one piece of fabric. I'm not going to cut them. I have some that are pieced and some that are not, so I've added the border. So I already have one big corner done. So I want to get all 4 corners about this size and then keep working until I've run out of signatures. All of the signatures have been added on, and I have 4 panels. There are some areas where I did have to add a little bit of a border. But with that, it's going to make a very interesting back. So I'm going to take and add the 4 panels together. I'll add a little bit of red on some borders, but not all of them, and then piece them all together to make one big back. Now that they're all sewn together, I can add big white borders. I'm going to add an equal amount on each side. That's going to give me enough to cover my quilt batting, plus the extra that I need for the quilter. By doing that, it's going to help it stay somewhat in the center. If it doesn't stay in the center, it's not going to look that bad because nothing is centered. You have all of these irregular shapes, so if it's a little off on one side or the other on the back, you are not going to be disappointed. It still will look great. I can add my big white borders on, and I'm going to be done. I have nice big seams along the back. It's going to make it a lot easier to quilt over those seams. It will lay nice and flat and have a nice flat look towards the back. Not only is this a fun backing for a quilt, it's very unique, and it holds a lot of memories. I just want to take a moment and thank everyone for sending in their signatures. This was so much fun to put together, and it was fun to receive and see what everyone wrote from the comments and what Canada means to you. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.